Hey everyone, my name is Derek James Smith. I'm here at the base of the beautiful Catskill Mountains on a rather blustery day. You might have seen me at an event at Scribner's. I'm a local tarot card reader, astrologer, hypnotherapist, and we thought we would come together for me to offer a very brief 12-card astrological mandala reading for the upcoming new moon. Now, the celestial event is this Wednesday, April 22nd in the evening time, I think about 10:30 p.m. Eastern. But the intention of this reading is not only for the event, but for the ensuing lunation cycle, meaning from this new moon until the next new moon, roughly a month. So I'm going to draw one card for each astrological sign, and unlike a weekly horoscope, there's no need to simply identify with a sun, moon, or rising sign. This is intended just to provide a mandala framework of content for you to bounce off of, to find meaning, to find synchronicity. So go with it if you identify with one sign more than another, or if you just want to take the reading as a whole. With that said, just a little background about the new moon. At least symbolically, it's in the sign of Taurus. It is conjunct Uranus, and it is square Saturn. So this is kind of universally seen as a potentially difficult new moon and cycle. That's because there's a little bit of friction between the inherent qualities of Saturn, Uranus, and Taurus. Taurus is peace-loving, grounded, and earthy. It being conjunct Uranus is rebelliousness, freedom-loving. There can be some friction there, a slight earthquake. And then you have Saturn at a hard angle coming in, ultimately imposes limitation and restriction. And I think ultimately this new moon and its cycle is about identity, and we'll find within the reading that it's about individual identity being shaken up, the security of it being shaken up, and how one steps into the true character and the exaltation of their individuality through limitation and restriction. I don't see it as though there's going to be any new limitation and restriction opposed, but again, this is not a predictive reading. This is more of just providing the mirror of content. So let's begin with the sign of Aries. Here we have the card 4 of discs, which is power, the sun in Capricorn. The idea here with it in Aries, I believe, is a maturation and stabilization of individuality. So the impulse for selfhood that is really predominant in Aries now has this stabilizing element. The shadow side of a card like power is that when you kind of build a stable fortress there, you can wall yourself in. So I would ask yourself going into the cycle, is this time to kind of, is it the limitation restriction breaking down some of the strength of the walls that you have as far as how you view yourself as an individual? Or is this the opportunity to strengthen and to build up those walls? Now, the second card for Taurus is Victory, which is the 6 of Wands. This is Jupiter in Leo energy. So it's really a celebration or exaltation of self-expression, of energy. Kind of after a hardship, you find victory. So one could say that there's a sense of self-worth coming from the struggle with one's individuality and identity. Let's see, with Gemini, we have the 7 of Cups. So this is debauch. This is Venus in Scorpio. And the idea here is basically an imbalance of emotional energy, feelings, emotions put forth, almost like you turn a faucet on to let the well run dry, to see how much is at the bottom of the well, how much emotion has been repressed down there, or how deep does it go. Now, this in Gemini makes me think that this is on a social level or on a technological level even. So we have these platforms like Zoom and Google Hangout and stuff that people are really trying to make connections through. And I wonder if it would be wise to pay attention to how that kind of returns emotional energy, and also is what is left at the bottom of that well, as these prove to be somewhat superficial in expressing true emotion. So there may be some energy economy there when it comes to emotion and communication. Now, for Cancer, we have the Queen of Discs, and she's a very nurturing figure. This is a court card in which motherly characteristics, bringing water to earth there, emotion to the body. It being in Cancer, I'd say this is a reminder to be very protective of the part of yourself that is most intimate, that seat of the spirit, so to speak. Even if you're living with 6 roommates, a large family, or you're living alone, there's always a part of you that is private and protected. And this is just a reminder, how are you handling emotional stress as it reaches or does not reach that part of you, and to kind of nurture and maintain and remember that there is always a part of you that is private, no matter how many people you are around. Now, the 5th card for Leo is the 9 of Cups, which is happiness. Another exaltation. This time it is Jupiter in Pisces, and so that kind of energy is an exaltation of boundarylessness, of the unconscious, of the unknown. We've already touched on that exaltation of creative expression. I would say here we're really looking at happiness found when one is able to fully express, but to express more than just themselves and their identity. So if we really start from Aries again and see that this is a strengthening of selfhood or individuality, when we get to that self-expression, we might be looking to express more than the limits of who we are. This could include just expressions that include other groups or demographics of people. But here in Leo, in this energy, look for that vitality of that full expression, and maybe that unearthing of that emotion that was in Gemini, and including that in that expression. Now, the 6th card is the 6 of Discs, which is success. So this is the moon in Taurus, so there's some synchronicity there. And the idea of success is about tilling soil in order to be ready to grow whatever you want. So we all might be searching for external conditions, or to be working hard, this being in Virgo, paying attention to details, being highly critical of what we're doing right now and what we're in service to. That here it's this reflective element of saying, if you're out there searching for what you want to plant in the garden, it won't matter if your soil is not ready to receive the seeds. So pay attention when that Virgo energy comes up. Is your garden ready to even begin planting? Take care of the limited or restricted amount of space that you have to work with, without making excuses for that. Now, as we get to the horizon of Libra, we have here the Hanged Man, which is our first major arcana card, and this is about a change of perspective. So it's almost like the Hangman lets go of the current perspective, flips 180, and sees things completely differently, and therefore can see kind of the dead end streets that they were going down. This being in Libra, I would say in the upcoming lunation cycle, really pay attention to your relationships and allow the circumstances, the limitations and restrictions, with this kind of strengthened sense of selfhood, allow yourself to view relationships completely differently, meaning someone who is your enemy may then look like your friend, and vice versa. It's very much just allowing on a mental level to see eye to eye with someone in maybe a reversed way than normal. As we move forward into Scorpio, we have the 7 of Swords, which is futility. This is the moon in Aquarius. So with Scorpio, it's not satisfied with the shallow. It's about deeply searching for transformative emotional experience. And this is a card that is really a lot about trickery and mind games to avoid the inevitable, and the futility of those. So that following the Hanged Man, I would imagine when you're engaging in relationships and with others, and others' resources even, that you look at the games you might play to kind of deny what you see when you're hanging upside down like that, when you're looking in the different perspectives. So if you have seen someone as an enemy or a group of people as an enemy, and then you're allowing yourself to see differently, your mind may play tricks in order to protect yourself from the emotional response of that, but you won't be satisfied. There is no denial with Scorpio. We'll dig deep until it finds what it wants. So next is for Sagittarius, which is a universe, and here is a card of Saturn. This is the idea of form, of limitation and restriction, of gravity. So Saturn being large mind and understanding, vitality in journeys, and the area of higher education when you get into like ninth house stuff. This is clearly limited for all of us right now. So what do you do when you have to accept the reality, the tangible reality of the ceiling being lowered on the idea of journeys, of adventure? What comes out of your personality and you as a unique individual? Can you kind of dance and celebrate the form, tangible form that is in reality existing, find journeys and adventures there? It's a test I think we're all having to take. Next is Capricorn, which is indolence, which is Saturn in Pisces. And here is kind of an overcompensatory energy from what was debauch in Gemini, which is so much emotion has come out that the kind of well runs dry. You have this hangover almost of energy to kind of correct, even though it's imbalanced in itself. So that being in Capricorn, there's definitely a lot of limiting factors within society, within how we tangibly are within society, profession, career, a lot of 10th house stuff there too. When I look at this card, it looks like maybe this is a time where we're not going to be able to express ourselves out in society as much as what would be healthy. And it's a time that we might have to accept an imbalance of emotion out there. And that restriction restricts also possibilities of the unknown and the boundarylessness. So there may be some tough times ahead in how we tangibly are in society on an emotional level. Let's look to Aquarius, shed a little more light on that. This is the 10 of Cups, which is satiety, the idea that we've reached the end of an emotional cycle. So we may be finding out, Aquarius being the water bearer, this idea of the momentum or trajectory coming from the status quo, coming from figuring out and exalting your individuality at all costs. We may be seeing that society in itself and our part in it wasn't emotionally satisfying, and as we come to the end of it is only through figuring out and really exalting your individuality, understanding who you truly are in the face of this limitation and restriction, and what emerges may bring with it a new emotional cycle. You may actually be getting some of the emotion after this that you've been inherently seeking within society in the outer world. Now for the last card is Pisces. This is a 10 of discs, wealth. The accumulation of wealth being something that can be detrimental if it is not shared with the world. And Pisces knows boundarylessness, the unseen, the unconscious. And this is the idea, I think it's a perfect card to bring it all around into a circle, that this is a cultivation of individuality, and from what kind of elements step out in your character from this limitation and restriction. And the idea is to really rot that out in private, by yourself, and as you engage with your relationships and with humanity and the rest of the world, figuring out a way to share it. So that is the general theme of this new moon and this lunation cycle, to exalt the individuality in the face of limitation and restriction, to take advantage of that opportunity. What would come out of you if things were easier would not be the same, and to share that with the world somehow as a gift. So I hope that is helpful to some of you, and I wish you the best in the upcoming new moon and lunation cycle. Thanks.